welcome everybody to yet another fantastic planned session, Tête-à-tête with Prayas. And as we can see in one corner, I'll just give a quick glimpse of their of Prayas and Virang all set and ready to go, and we will get that done shortly. Just before we begin, we will have Anuj give us a little bit brief and idea about what is going on with the ADI chapter, ADI Ahmedabad chapter, the kind of things that we've been up to. So we'll just do that. Meanwhile, if any of your friends are ready to join, please ask them to join since we are starting now. Over to you, Anuj.
Hi.
Anuj, let's wait. Let's have more people joining. Then we can start.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, sure.
We can. I think we can chat up until then.
This. Hi, Prayas. What's up?
Hello.
Why can't I see you? Look at this.
Hi, Parvati. Neha. Harpreet. If you guys can switch on your video, I think it'll be nice to see everybody for some time.
It'll be nice to see faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's shelves.
Hi, Priyanka.
Yeah, there's shelves. Yeah.
Hi, Shade. I just wanted to
on the table before in the middle of
Prayas ka audio is clear, yeah?
Yeah.
All set.
Saturday mode में तो सिर्फ अनुज है अभी.
मैं बाइक पे घूम रहा हूँ ऐसा काला हो पड़ा हूँ. It's nice. It's a yeah. Goa seems like a good place. All of us should shift. The whole ADI Ahmedabad can shift to Goa. Who all are up? Please raise your hand. See, you can reactions.
Hi, Neha.
How are you all? Hi.
Good, good. We've got Barry here. It's a miracle.
Where? Ah.
Anuj, start now.
Okay. Just a sec. I am just okay. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming over and listening to Prayas. I mean, I don't think I interacted with Prayas. Prayas is from NID, so I don't think I interacted with Prayas earlier. But then I'm equally interested in poetry. So one of these, somebody said Prayas is a good poet. I said, okay, get him. So Prayas very humbly comes and I think it's one or two times he came, and I also started reading his poetry. And there's this very beautiful poet in him, which I really, really admire. I mean, I don't follow too many poets, but I do follow and read what he writes because I mean, reading Hindi itself is a trouble these days. And if someone is using very tough words, it becomes very, very, very difficult to understand. But Prayas has a shift between like tough words too. So you know the words are so beautiful at times that you want to know the meaning. So sometimes it all goes over me also, but then I want to know the meaning because the rest of the poetry is so beautiful that you want to know what it means, and that's very intriguing about Prayas's work. So I'm very happy that Virang chose to speak to Prayas and bring him to ADI to us to listen to his side of the story of poetry. And of course, we are a design group and we all know, most of the people here already know about ADI, but in any which way, it's my duty to say that most welcome. And ADI is a small group which we started some time back. So I hope we keep building this space, the Ahmedabad, into an art and design and cultural space, and regain its glory of having beautiful events. And of course, pandemic has come halted us to do this at this scale, but I can imagine if 14 of us were sitting with Prayas at this point of time in some place with the with a mood lighting, we would have actually paid him 1,000 rupees each and said, "Yo, Prayas, go go get," you know. But it's still beautiful, and what's interesting is that we can still meet and do these things. So ADI has been doing these beautiful stuff. So any of you are not part of it, please become. And we would love to have you over and be part of the whole system and host more events which are lovely. And thank you, Virang, for doing the part of this thing, which is also Tête-à-tête, which is talking to somebody who's not just from design, but he is from design, but today it will be more about his poetry and singing. And I believe there's some congratulations in order for Prayas for something which is Virang will take it over from there and talk about it. So thank you, Virang, and please, both of you most welcome, and thank you for doing this and entertaining us at many levels. And I hope it's a conversation that will make us more poetic in our everyday life. Thank you, everyone. Take over from here, please.
Thank you, Anuj. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Virang.
Thank you. So, thank you everyone for being a part of this session, and I welcome all of you guys from the ADI Ahmedabad chapter. I आज मैं I'll be hosting the sessions with the Prayas today. So I have Prayas today on this board, and we'll be like really thankful to him to have us in the studio, because I think you can see that we have almost occupied most of his space with his instrument, and the backside we have all the other instrument which is not visible in this recording. Thank you, Prayas, for having us here.
Thank you so much. It's actually a big pleasure, and I'm really humbled that really thanked I really want to thank ADI, especially the Ahmedabad chapter and Virang, for having me here today.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we start, I'll just quickly introduce the Prayas. We've been working with together since long time, but just for everyone's interest. So Prayas is basically an NID graduated product designer with a multi-talented potentials, personality. Now towards his journey as like a singer, writer, composer, and producer. And I think that list goes on, because every 6 months he adds one more skill, and we always been really mesmerizing what will be the next one now. So he has successfully launched his first song under the name Bachpan in collaboration with the Compass Studio in Ahmedabad, and Mamuli Khayal as his own production. So that's like a two composition which is right now there out on YouTube. You can check out, and they are like one of the popular song which Prayas has launched till the day. And based on that launch and the outcomes, he has recently got covered on the Rolling Stone magazine, which is under tag which they call as 10 singers to keep eye on, and he is one of them. So that's like a really proud moment, which we have as like a friend who has been shortlisted there. And definitely Prayas will have his own soft heart around there. So Prayas, tell me what was your first expression when you see that name coming in the Rolling Stone magazine, and what was your first expression throughout there?
Um, so basically, it's a big shift, I would say, that I have been pursuing product design for the past almost 7 years, and if you don't count the college. And sometime in between, I think there was this urge to use, I think, design for doing more than what I was using it for, and hence writing came into picture, and subsequently it's like writing songs and composing and creating music. And the initial bit was very uncertain, because it's completely new area, and I pretty much had no idea or no mentorship for it. And after I launched the first song, which was Bachpan, and subsequently when I launched my own production, which is Mamuli Khyal, and then when I got featured for the Rolling Stone cover, I think it was like a big validation that the jump I had taken, the scope that I saw in myself being a musician, which was completely validated by industry and by like the leading magazine of the country. So I don't think it is anything less than um, a miracle, or like it took completely it took me completely by surprise, and it puts a lot of faith in the efforts that I have been putting. So like completely blown away by this cover.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So Prayas, you have started your careers with a product designer. So what was your journey from the as a designer, which is like best in class in a designer, would I say, and to the popular single songwriter? What was your journey? How was that being classified?
So I think the thing is that being like a first year design student in NID, everyone is talking about, like all the seniors would ask you this question: what is design? Like this primarily as a question has been asked to me so many times by so many people. And I think even then when it was being asked, no one really knew the answer. Like everyone was asking this question, but you actually cannot pinpoint what design is, and it comes down to you experiencing it and then pretty much having a very subjective your definition of what design is for you.
Yeah.
So I think after completion of college, that was the time where I think I realized this fact that okay, it's not something that it does something, rather you need to figure out what it does for you. And I started seeing it as a tool to look at things, to have a perspective at things, and pretty much like solving something which looks magnanimous, which looks huge in like the first glance, because you don't know where to start or like how to approach a very big problem, like if you're like presented with one. And I think design has helped me to look at things not in terms of scale, but in terms of breaking it down into smaller chunks and then figuring your way inside that bigger problem by breaking it down into smaller things. And I think it would be completely fair if I say that the whole of design backup that I've had as a training in NID has refined the process in which you approach anything. And then like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether it is a song or you're writing something, or it is a life problem, or it is buying a new car, anything. You start looking at in a way that you can break it down into smaller pieces and then approach in a way that you have like a holistic view, and you also know where to take corners and how to browse through a big problem that looks unrealistically big and find the ends and then take it from there. So I think even the same thing has helped me in writing, because and especially creating a song, because like creating a song before I was trained as a designer seems like a like undoable thing, because there's so many aspects to it, and it looks like how can one person create something like that. And but like after the whole process, you can break it down into smaller pieces, you can do it step by step. And the power of the design process is that in the end you will reach a place which is desired.
Yeah.
So you, if you trust the process and if you do it bit by bit, then you can pretty much get to the end result, which very evidently has helped me, because now I think I've reached to a point where now I consider okay, I can finish a song.
Very
And which like earlier it was completely impossible feat, I would say.
fair
So
enough.
design completely helps in anything that I do.
Fair enough. So when you are putting your sentence, you said that the writing was one of the thing which you are doing, and I think what you say is most of the songs what you compose, most of them, and I think I say that all of them are written by you. So what was the thought? And just for the other people's reference, he is a writer in himself, and he has a like underwritten written more than 200 poems under a pen name called Nub, and more than 10K followers he has already right now on Instagram. So what was the thought when you have started this, and what was the thought behind this writing and launching the Nub as a writing pen head?
Like when I was working as a like full time. I am still working as a full time professional, but like when I immediately joined after college and I had worked for almost an year, that is when I had some of the ideas about like what I want to write about, and I think like if I remember correctly, I had one or two songs that I had written or completed like fully, and also composed it like whatever I could by myself. And so I was trying to get into a habit of writing daily, but the initial directions that I was taking was that I wanted to write songs. So then every idea that I could think of, I would try to make a song out of it. And like I tried that, and somehow it didn't work. And sometime later I realized that not everything needs to be a song. Not everything needs to be like written down completely in so many words and so many sentences. And it doesn't need to be a long thing in order to complete the story.
Yeah.
And then that's when I started exploring like writing very small stuff, like
Okay.
2 line, 4 line, 8 line. But the idea was that I have to finish the story that I want to say, or finish the idea from start to the end by like following whatever I want to build the world, or whatever things I am trying to communicate. It should be communicated within those two.
Okay.
And that was the time when I started writing these smaller stuff, and I started posting it out. And I've been like really admired by people having like really good pen names, and they write under that pen name and so on. And uh, I think Nub, if you talk about that in specific, then I was looking for a pen name, and I wanted to relate to what I do, or what I want to write about. And I realized that I pretty much in my writing try to not look at the extreme emotions, but like very ordinary stuff. And I wanted sort of like an umbrella which covers everything, so that under that thing I'm not classified as what I want to write, and or I write this and that. And during that search, I've always been fascinated with the word nub, and what it really means in Hindi is the sky.
Okay.
So, and it was like a very I would say like the moment where I realized, okay, like what I am trying to do is having an umbrella of all types of thoughts and so on. And the word is really beautiful in my senses. And that's when I decided, okay, I think Nub is gonna be my pen name, and I'll write these smaller stories and I'll keep uploading. And I made it a habit that I'll post at least one poem a day, and like, or like one poem every 2 day. And that's how the traction started. And that's how I started writing these smaller stuff, posting it on online, and then people started reading it, showing some interest. That encouraged and happened.
Fair enough. So I think now I believe that the nub is the right word for what you are doing.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
now, because on the backstory today, I came to know.
Yeah.
So Prayas, tell me more about being a product designer or industrial expert, would I say? Like being in the industries for more than 4 years or 5 years, and you are like working on a hardcore product development. So, how do you see a relation of a developers or the product developer, product designer versus the songwriter? So, what kind of relation you see, and do you have any relation in between there?
I think like I mentioned that there's an absolute overlap. Like if you consider design as a process, then I think it overlaps with everything that you do in your life. Like starting from your relationships to the things that you do, your habits and everything. And pretty much everything, if you follow that process, can be brought into a state which is desired or designed by you. It's not happening at random. So initially I think I think there's a complete overlap in writing for songs as well, because like when you're telling a story, pretty much any form of storytelling, there are pretty much like these basic anchor points that through which you make the person navigate a story. And those what do you call it, checkpoints are pretty much overlap with what we do in design. So like you do you like the first phase is you do a research, then you expand and you explore and you figure out what are different ways of doing it. Once you have done that, exhausted yourself, then you pick one and then you narrow it down and then you bring it down to that, and then you again explore that for doing that particular thing, what are different ways. So I think it's completely the same process how I write, because when I am exploring, there are all sorts of different like to communicate one thing, you can do it in n number of ways. And when you think of all those and when you put it in aspect of what is the holistic communication point that you want to do, then it becomes very easy to switch between a holistic view, that the whatever the song completely need to encompass as an emotion or a message or what do you want to communicate, and also to a macro level view, okay, what this line and this word and how is this word connected to the overall picture. So I think you being a designer, I'm able to switch between both and function and uh, make the poetry grow in a desired or in a designed way, not like कि आपने एक line लिख दी, अब लिख दी तो ठीक है, अब वो हो गया, अब next line कुछ उस पे लिखने के लिए करो. But like being a designer, you have full control over every aspect of writing and so on. And the same goes with music also. Your choice of instruments, like you are able to communicate, okay, what are the emotion that this thing brings, and in totality, what does it add to the whole song, where should it be. So I think that process makes it very easy. So I think one of the reasons that I've been able to pick it quickly is because the process is sorted.
Okay.
So if you just have faith in that process, then you don't need to worry about ki, are you skilled enough or are you trained enough and so on. So luckily those thoughts didn't come into mind when I was starting out, and I just trusted the process. Okay, if you do it step by step, you will reach a desired outcome.
Fair enough. So when you say that you have explored enough of things, because when you start from the product design, you eventually end up with a nub, which is like poetry writing, and then you have started with a song composition and the producer now.
Yeah.
So that's like a recent year, which is like a recent 5 or 7 years or 10 years. So I would be interested in more in terms of before even you came to the design field, what kind of exploration you had on the back end, because even I have heard stories where after the product design you will be like undercover for around 1 or 2 years to exploring further more
Yeah.
things, which is after an ID. So that was like totally shocking, like what Prayas is doing nowadays and what will come up across. So then that is the outcome where we have a nerve and a new Prayas with a song writer and the composer. So just take us through your backstory before you even come to the design education.
So I think like since childhood, uh, like I'm really glad because of the way I was brought up. Like my family, they are my father and my brother. They are already like I would say like self-taught would be a wrong way. They've never taught themselves. It's like music and understanding music and talking about music, what is good and bad. I think it comes naturally to them, and that's how it seeped in. But I had never seen that as something that I wanted to pursue. So and since childhood I've been sort of like a person who like I wouldn't think much that whether I like doing something or I don't like doing something. If it has to be done, it has to be done.
Yeah.
And I personally believe that if you do things enough number of time, you cross a threshold where you would start liking it. In like it's inevitable to not like it if you have done it enough.
Yeah.
So since childhood, like when I was a kid, I was a lot into sports.
Okay.
So in like I've represented my school and region, and I've also played like national level for in kayaking and in certain other sports and so on. So that phase was very sports oriented, I would say, and I was doing it a lot. And then came like the new approach, say 10th and beyond, 10th, 12th. That was the time I became, I don't know how, but I somehow became extremely academic, where I was focusing a lot on my, and that was the time I was preparing for JEE also. I wanted to get into an IIT. So that was a time where I was full throttle into studies, and I can say that I scored like really good, exceptional marks. I also was able to get through IIT, and then when that happened, simultaneously NIT happened. Uh, and I was really interested in animation, so I got into NID after like looking at like after like I appeared for the studio test. So then okay, then everything IIT was closed, and then I got into NID thinking that I would be an animator after completing 4 years, or like after completing the foundation. Then I thought, okay, then I shifted to product design. Then after college I started working as a product designer, and I was like, okay, this is also not it. So then I took a break of almost close to 2 years to figure out. Then I like during that time I also tried my hands at movie production. I also tried, like I traveled, and there was various things that I tried, and I was also part of a lifestyle brand that we were building for like eyewear. And I think this point was the time where I could start figuring out what the conflict is, because I would like, without thinking whether I like doing something or not, I would do it, and eventually I'll start liking it. By this time, there were so many things that I liked that it became really difficult to pick one thing that I want to do for the rest of my life, or basically something that is your central agenda in your life. And that was like a phase of like a lot of confusion and uncertainty, and that's why I took a break. And then I realized, okay, what is like, I asked a lot of questions to myself, one of which was that what is one thing that has stayed since childhood to current moment, because a lot of things have come and gone, and I've liked them and I've left them, and so on. So I think the answer to that was writing. So I have always written down stuff, be it in a copy and something like that. And music comes naturally from the family and brother and father. So I think that was the point where that moment of clarity happened. Okay, this is something that has not withered away with time and with situations and scenarios. And I think that clarity, I still feel that okay, writing is something, and I identify myself as a writer and not as a musician per se. So and after that point, I think I've never been clearer in my mind, and I don't think that I'll be hopping onto anything else, because I really really like writing and everything that surrounds writing. So, and that's how Nub eventually happened, and we are here.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think that was a good start, because that's the reason where we are here. Otherwise,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
could not be. So, in the current years, you have launched two songs, which is one is a Bachpan and other is a Mamuli Khayal. So, as in a person, which one you personally like, and what was your personal preference out of that two?
Okay, I think let's talk about what those two songs stand for. So, Bachpan, basically, which is a song. Actually, I would want to start with Mamuli Khayal. The thought behind that song is so I am a very contemplative person, and I spend a lot of time in my head talking to myself. And that was actually the essence of that thing, because I realized that almost 80% of the time, like I think it holds true for everyone, 80% of time you're talking to yourself in your head.
Yeah.
And that is almost close to 8 hours per day, like more than 8 hours, definitely.
Okay.
So if you're talking to yourself for almost 8 to 10 hours a day, what are you talking about? And how much of it do you remember? So because like thoughts just keep floating by you, and you are answering them, and you're asking question to yourself, and but none of it is ever documented, because you can't really document it. And that those thought is something that I called Mamuli Khayal, which is because they are completely ordinary, mundane thoughts about various things that that are happening to you in your current state of.
Interesting.
But it amounts to a huge volume of your day. So they in some way are important, right? Because they will eventually end up defining some conclusive thought or direction in your head. And the idea of writing those songs was that we're not paying attention to those little small thoughts that keep floating by, and hence the opening center, like the opening of that song is बेहद मामूली से लगते कुछ ख्यालों ने सोचा, like completely ordinary. So the idea is that I try to personify them, which is बेहद मामूली से लगते कुछ ख्यालों ने सोचा कि क्यों ना कभी गुच्छा बन एक खूबसूरत गजल हो जाए. The idea is that those independent, mundane, ordinary thoughts, when are combined, are the reason for any extraordinary thought. And that was the reason why I like it. Still mesmerizes me how you think and perceive things. That personification of those ordinary thought is something that also translates to Bachpan.
Okay.
So now Bachpan is a song about like if you personify all your childhood memories and you imagine that एक बड़ा सा ground है जिसपे ये सारी individual memories are doing what they are supposed to do. एक पहाड़ पे चढ़ रहा है, एक पेड़ पे चढ़ रहा है, एक रेत से खेल रहा है, and so on. So if you personify like all these memories and combine them in a group, that creates a world, and that is the world that I am traveling to. The premise of the song is that I go into the world where I see all my childhood memories playing.
Okay.
So the first act is basically describing how the world is. Second act is you interacting with these memories, and the third act is you come to a conclusion. So I think it would be impossible for me to pick which is closer to my heart, but I think in essence, I really like to go to these very ordinary things and sort of try to personify them and read their emotions and then write about them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, if you don't mind, can you just like to play some of the song for audience, which could be even the not Bachpan and the other parts. So anything which is latest, which is there right now.
Yeah, actually, I'm working on a song, so I would really like to play something.
Perfect.
While he's setting up, Virang, while you're setting up, there are a few questions that are there from the audience. So you just give me a cue when I can ask them on the audience's behalf.
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
Oh, is it a text?
Stage is all yours.
You go ahead. He'll ask the questions later.
Okay, sure.
I'll ask later. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So, like if you have heard some of the stuff that I do, I really like to talk about the motivating aspects of life and how you can motivate not others but yourself to do certain things, and how can you bring a consistency to the way like you motivate yourself. So this song that I'm going to present is called Main Chala, and it basically talks about breaking away from all the redundant parts and moving, like ignoring all the negative stuff and like going on, taking the positives and then like going on and building your story.
So is this already there in the market?
No, I think
so. I think so we are such an honor to have this composition specially done for this talk, and it is really glad to have a listener. Like you are the first listener of the songs. Yeah, Prayas, I think that's such an honor. That's all. Mic is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. So you might be seeing maybe this song by the end of this year, maybe.
Thank you. I'm not sure what kind of feeling you got in the virtual sessions, but you should listen that in the person, and keep inviting him for another physical
please do.
event. So Prayas, I think this was a wonderful composition written. Everything is done nicely. So tell me, how do you manage your personal, professional, and the passion together in this this complex geometry? Because you said that you are still working as a full time somewhere, and apart from that, every 2 months or 1 month we have new song which is written under new poet. So what was your how do you manage that kind of work life culture?
I think I would say that I am very lucky in this manner because working full time as a professional somewhere is a lot draining and it's very demanding. But like I can say that while working as a full time design professional, I am, and especially liking what you are doing, because I am really excited about what projects I do, and like that part of my life is completely something that takes me by surprise with every project and so on. So specifically in my scenario, I can say that while those 8 to 10 hours or whatever time I spend in that actually bring helps me reach a momentum uh, in certain way, and I start from that momentum when I shift to like doing my music or writing
Okay.
anything. So it actually acts as a acceleration ground for me to, yeah, so that I don't have to start with like the base energy when I'm writing. And I think it goes both ways, because a lot of times when I write something really good, or I compose something that I really am excited about, that momentum is translated then to my like work life and so on.
Okay.
So I think that specifically for that part, I consider myself really lucky. And there's another aspect to this, which is that your time throughout the day is not personally your time, because there are so many aspects of it. So I consider myself lucky in that manner also, that my family, wife that I have, they put in a lot of uh, consideration, that okay, to be able to do certain things you need to invest like certain amount of time in that, and they are really understanding and helpful and encouraging in that way, that I couldn't ask for like better people around me to create a fertile ground for me to then work on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the profession I am in is also helping me. The people that I am with are also helping me, and so I think I can totally say that I am in a very lucky position to be in, and yeah.
Okay. So what I see is that the transitions between all the songs, they are they have different wordings and different story altogether. So when you write, what kind of thought you have, or what kind of likes you want to write inside your poet, and what's kind of inspiration? Where do you get these inspirations to write such kind of inspiring songs?
Okay, so I'll talk about what I want to or like to write. So like before even thinking about me getting into writing, I think I read a lot of stuff that is currently available in masses. Like I'm not talking about obscure content.
Yeah.
But specifically, like when I was reading before I got into writing, I could see that the whole industry and the whole community of people writing, I'm not talking about the masters, but I am talking about people like me who are writing and publishing stuff. So and I could very easily figure out that most of the people are writing about, say, love. I think is the most lowest hanging fruit in writing.
Yes.
And it is very easy to write also, because it's so much relatable to you, because you feel it, other people feel it, so whatever you write, it will be taken very well on the other end. People like to read about like very romantic stuff. The other side is very depressing stuff, like sad things or things that do not happen in your life the way it should be, and that is another sect of people writing those kind of you can like listen to sad Bollywood songs. Exactly. So I think these two pretty much comprise a majority of the content that is available, at least in the poetic manner. And I see these as two extremes, like extremely happy or romantic and extremely sad, depressed or whatever. And I was really surprised that like इसके बीच में जो part है, which is like the neutral stuff, which is day to day stuff जो हम सब experience करते हैं. So why is no one actually talking about normal stuff? And so that is where my selection of topic, I think, is very much influenced by that. I don't want to write about extreme stuff. I don't want to write about extreme emotions. I don't want to like really move people with what I want to write, but I want to find extraordinary stuff and beautiful stuff in like in day to day stuff. And I think one of the reasons that it comes in that way is that whenever I'm doing something, and be it anything, like आप पानी पूरी खा रहे हो, आप कुछ भी कर रहे हो, आप कपड़े धो रहे हो या कुछ, like the most ordinary stuff that you are doing, at that point are you telling yourself a story कि नहीं यार मैं ऐसे करता था, ऐसे होता, ये पानी पूरी ऐसी है वैसी है. So I think that sort of has inculcated in a habit that whenever I'm doing something, I keep telling myself story of an alternate reality of doing the same stuff.
Interesting.
So that's where I think I figure out that okay, what can be an extraordinary emotion in this very mundane thing. And that is one aspect of it. Second is, like you said, inspiration kahan se aata hai. So I think I would totally account that for the type of reading I do. And to be honest, it would be very surprising, but I don't read poetries. I don't read stories. I don't read, basically, I don't read fiction at all.
Okay.
Like sometimes I do, but it would account to only say 5% of the total reading that I do. And I'm very much into the non-fiction side of reading. So I read about science. I am very much interested in spirituality. I am very much interested in quantum mechanics, geography, the sociology, psychology. So majority of my reading happens in those, and I think that's where I try to like make links between two completely unrelated stuff, so psychology and say science. So when you are reading those type of things and then you start making or connecting the dots, they are something which are not they're not obvious. So I think that is where the inspiration comes from, that how can you see or like look at things in a very holistic way across like all types of subjects, and how can you perceive it in many different ways. And that's where the iterations happen.
Yeah.
So a designer may explain something in a very different way than a scientist, and so I try to be in those shoes and not look at something in only one aspect. And when you're trying to explain something in very different ways, then you can eventually have some common linkages and connections, and you can connect the dots, and that you present. So they sort of like it becomes unobvious, like although it is very mundane and very like simple, it is not very obvious. So I think inspiration, definitely the ground for inspiration is the reading part that I do. And then when I actually get into writing all these smaller things that I keep telling myself, stories that I keep telling myself, they happen. And I try to not be in any extreme emotions of love, hatred, anger, and those kind of things. So I play safe in my zone about normal stuff.
Fair enough. I think that's a differentiator right now. What you are doing, and that's what people really like to go back and listen that smaller details in what you do in the song, and that's what I'm fan of. Like I really like that song. So tell me one thing. When you launch any song online, you definitely have multiple platforms now. You have YouTube's and many more like that.
Spotify,
Yeah. So how do you see yourself as in the current industry? What I see, if you have a YouTube subscriber which is in a million or billion, you are the successful songwriter or the composer. So is that what is defined as a successful writing, or the song's definition? Is that justify that requirements? And before that, I have an question. Is just like, how do you see your song being marketed well, so that, or the put in a way where you have more people to be exposed?
Right. So, like you rightly said, I think there are two very distinct aspects of creating a song. One is a very personal thing, which is creating the song, creating the story, how you want to say it, share it, and so on. Creating the product in product design, you create the product, and the second part is the marketing of that product. So, no matter how good it is, it has to reach people in order for them to say whether they like it or not.
Okay.
Because you can create something very extraordinary, which everyone will like, but it doesn't reach everyone.
Yeah.
So then it is not a, it's a false judgment on whether that thing is good or not.
Okay.
So likes, I think it's because see in terms of marketing, you can market a very bad song and you can make it reach millions, and you can market a good song and you can make it reach no one. You can't, like, you don't market a good song and it doesn't reach anyone. So that is like a very different aspect. What I tend to focus more on is the first part, which is key product needs to be something that I am in love with. So it doesn't really like those likes and all. Of course, like in an industry, it would add credential to your profile as such, and the way people look at it, look at you. But I think my focus in the first half is to make something that I like. So in during that part, I'm not really worried about what is the trend, या कौन क्या सुन रहा है, या what type of music is currently being played and so on, because my focus is to create something that I like. It can be completely out of trend. So Mamuli Khayal was completely out of trend, I think that is one feedback that I got from people, that like in an age of pop songs and so on, I have created something which is like a fusion of a ballad and a ghazal.
Yeah.
And it is completely right, because it is completely out of trend, but that is where I see that beauty lies, because the feedback that I got, like praises for that song, a good chunk of it is from people of like the like a generation above me, so my parents generation. So my music, say the person who was doing the percussion, he was mixing and doing his stuff, and his family is not really into music. And he came back and told me कि they never ask me about what I do and क्या मैं करता हूँ, but they specifically came and asked कि ये कौन से गाने पे काम कर रहे हो, yes, because he would play it so many times in the house while working on it. So that strata of generation liked it. So then like I would like to strive for making it timeless in a way that it doesn't stick to your current trend, because trends would, like, it, you will be out of trend no matter what you do if you're trendy in say 1 year or 2 years. But if you create something which is not adhering or not catering to that population, then there is a higher chance of it being something timeless. People can go back to it. So my aim is to suffice that personal agenda, which is trends and all do not matter as long as I am in love with it. Because I believe as long as I am in love with it, there are enough people like me who will, if they listen to it, they would like it. That is one aspect. And second is, yes, of course, you need to invest a good amount of energy in marketing, because you have to make it reach to a people. And if you have made it reach to enough people, then like the likes and that, I think it does not really matter to me.
Okay.
Matlab, of course, as a, like, in order to grow, they would have certain implication, but it doesn't affect me, because I'm not doing it to become a professional singer songwriter. I'm doing it purely out of love for doing it, because I already do something that I like and love, which is like my professional life, and this is my personal body of work. So it doesn't matter whether people are liking it or not liking. I will be keeping on creating that stuff, because that is what I will be doing till the end of my life.
Okay.
And I just want to create a body of work which I like. So in the long run, I don't think even that matters to me personally.
Okay. Okay. So when you say that you are basically that's basically whatever you draft is a personal liking. So, can you tell me what was your initial thought, or basically what was your process when you got a chance to launch your first song with the Bachpan with a compass box? So, because as a human being, we always insist, or basically, I would always say that ki I want 1 million likes or the 1 million viewers on the YouTube on my first song. But that is a very rare chance because that's what you assume and that's what you reality will be totally different.
Right.
So in your case, the Bachman I think is your first song, right?
Yes.
So and that launch in how what is the duration? It
Um,
was 3 months, 3 months old, 4 months.
Bachpan was, I think, launched in about March last year.
Okay, so recently, since March, he's I think one of the most viewed song on YouTube.
Yeah, it has just hit 30,000 streams on Spotify.
Yeah. So what was your journey there? Because eventually that's your first song, and definitely it will be require hard work to do that.
So there's an interesting story. I wouldn't call it a story, but like interesting experience that I had, which is I already had written Bachpan and I had composed it, and I was looking for ways to realize that song, basically to produce that song. And at that point, I didn't have like the setup to do it myself. And the song was complete as a scratch, and I was looking for producers, and I then came across Compass Box Studio because they were working with a lot of new indie artists who have like original content. And I got in touch with them, and I eventually was in a meeting, and you can consider the meeting was around 9 in the night.
Okay.
Say today night I am meeting Rag, who is the owner of Compass Box, and he's also the producer. And I don't know yet that whether this song, like whether they'll be taking up this song to do a session.
Yeah.
And during that discussion, he really liked the song and he wanted to do it. So I was like, okay, theek hai, chalo. At least ek ded mahine mein I'll prepare the song properly and then I'll share it again and then we can take it. And then so 9:30 he tells me that is it okay if we record that song tomorrow morning, like the proper recording session. And it took me by surprise, but then we went ahead with it. 9:30 in the morning we met. We just jammed for like maximum 45 minutes to just like for 5 people to understand ki kya ho raha hai gaane mein. And we took like we did some takes, and by 12:30 I think we were done with the song.
Oh.
So that happened so quickly that I was like कि okay, record हो भी गया है अभी, ठीक है. फिर कुछ time बाद it got launched and it was taken very well. So हाँ, मतलब preparation is very subjective.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So before we jump on another question, Vivek, you have any questions which you want to focus?
Well, thank you. That's not me. I don't know where that's coming from. All right. Thanks. It's going so nice. I see everybody is really almost sub-villain ho gaye in this conversation. But just to kind of get a little this thing, a question that Parashar Agrawat has asked is, can you talk about the poetry writing workshop which you conducted, how you arrived at a process which aspiring writers can use to approach writing poems, songs, etc. And I have also been a part of that, meaning going and seeing what is happening with that. It was extremely exciting. I think it'll be great if it was already not on Birang's list to be communicated. Talk about.
Okay, so the thing is, the whole idea. So when I was writing a lot and I was posting a lot, I kept getting this messages from upcoming writers ki like please some in some way mentor us, guide us ki kaise likhna hai, kya likhna hai. And I was doing it one-on-one on Instagram DMs. So I had done it for almost like 30-40 people, and I was helping, like reading their content, giving some feedback and like helping them write better or in whatever way I thought could make their writing better. And so I was already in like in process of creating a process to what I do, like a tangible theoretical process. And like while I was launching my second song, which was Mamuli Khayal, I also ran a competition which was Khayal Challenge. So the competition was that you have to use the word Khayal, uh, uh, and you basically need to write any poem and in any form or any structure. And the response was also really good. I like almost, I think, 100 poets entered into that competition with almost 150 odd poetries, out of which I selected about 10 of the best poems that I liked, and I conducted a workshop with them. And in that process, I was able to like break down my personal process in a way that what are the basic things that you need to take care when you're writing. How do you make your language better? How do you choose your words? What words go for what type of poetry? How do you bring a cohesiveness in the type of word that you choose? So like if you're writing say a shairi, or which where you're using Urdu words, then if you add like a very Shuddh Hindi word, it wouldn't make sense. But that does not mean that that word is not good to be used in poetry, because if you write something else which has that quality of words, then that fits in perfectly. So I broke it down into certain parts, where how do you create a world where you're telling the story. So the first part like of what I tend to do is, whenever I'm trying to say a story, I build a world or a pretext where that story is taking place.
Okay.
So a bit I would like tend to focus on that before I start even telling what I want to say. So those are the smaller things that I have learned over the period of time, which try to which add beauty and relevance to the kind of content that you are writing. And it also sort of breaks away from what people are doing, because it's a personal process and everyone will eventually create a personal process.
Yeah.
So the focus of that workshop was that how can you figure out that process within your way of writing, and then how can you improve your writing by observing. So observation was like a bigger part of the process, where like I told you that whatever you're doing, what are the stories that you're telling yourself, because eventually you'll be writing that only.
Yes.
So you have to consistently keep telling yourself stories about anything. It doesn't necessarily have to make sense or anything, but you need to be in a process where you're continuously churning out stories, not writing down or like telling it to anyone, but you have to keep telling yourself stories about different things. And when you build a bank of those things, when you build a bank of connections of different things, then I think that is the difficult part. Then like putting that thought in an actual poem is like it becomes very easy. So I think that is what the main focus of the workshop was, and I will be taking workshops in um, coming months, I think. Yes.
Yeah, I almost the way you were saying it almost also seemed very much that you enjoyed the process of the workshop thoroughly, and that was going to be a following question, whether you're going to repeat such workshops in the future, because I believe the response was magnificent, and it's great. And yeah, moving to the next question, which is by somebody who's in the same house as you are right now. Neha is asking, given an option, would you go back in the past and join a music school right after 12th, or you are happy with the current course of your life, or how it has turned out to be with design
I
and
think it's
then
a
with
very
discovery and things?
it's a very difficult question, to be honest. It's good that I didn't choose it because it would be really difficult if I had to choose it. But I think the kind of insights that I've gained being a designer is unparalleled to anything else. Because say if I am training myself to be a musician, then I'm only training myself to be a musician, which sort you'll be like really in command of music, but then the holistic view, I think, gets lost in any type of specialization, is what I personally believe in. And I am pretty much I am against any type of specialization as such, and I didn't do masters. So I think one of the big reasons to not choose specializations in specific ways is because it narrows down your perspective of the things. For example, a biologist who is like working it day in day out about like thinking about biology, it would be very difficult for him to think about literature. It would be very difficult for him to think about cosmos and so on. So, and even though like it would get difficult even if he tries hard. So I think I pretty much like to be in a position where, on the cost of not knowing everything about music, but at least I am in a position where I can look at multiple things from far.
Yeah.
Far say I can pretty much have like an overview, so that when I'm writing something, it is relevant for more space than about that thing. And I think although it is really important to be like trained in musician, but I think it comes down to the fact that I really don't identify myself as a musician. I would really like to be trained as a musician, but I identify myself more as a writer and a thinker, because I think that part encompasses then a lot of different things. So I pretty much enjoy that position of not knowing everything
Fair enough.
strictly. Yeah.
Wow. I think, wow. All right. I think we are done here with questions from the audience. There were two more questions, but they were already answered in conversation earlier, so I'm not going to bring them up. There was a question by Priyanka, and there was a question from Sunita Bakshi also, which have been answered. So, yeah, over to you, Virang.
Thank you. So thank you. But after this all questions, I have one more questions for you. So when you write a song, what expression you carry out? Is that inspiration which you want to create for the other singers, or the like a pleasuring experience of the song which you write through? So what is a back end of whatever you write through?
um I think it in that manner, I think it always starts with pleasure. You Some riff gets stuck in your mind when you're playing and something stands out completely. So it is purely out of love and your interest in that. You write something, a word, you are really in love with a word, you're really in love with a line that you wrote, or so it will all, for me it always starts with that thing where I'm not thinking about anything else but just that word and me. and like if I like that, and it always starts like that. But when you move out of that space, so when you have okay, when you know okay, okay, this is something that may be taking the center stage in whatever I'm trying to create, then to create the other parts, then you need to very much be aware of you are going, what is it being what is it communicating, who is it like who is it is it targeted to, who is going to be reading it, whether they would be able to understand it, and so on. So that inspiration, I don't know what you mean exactly by inspiration, but like at that point I'm very much aware about the audience.
Okay.
But like the first 10% of the process, which is the main like the main breakthrough, I would say, because everything else is, then you keep putting it in process and it will keep progressing. But to find that starting point is very vague, because
Okay.
you need to pick out one end of like a very crumpled up thread and so on. So एक बार वो पकड़ में आ जाता है, that is purely out of love. Then you design it in a way keeping in mind कि कौन सुनने वाला है, कौन पढ़ने वाला है, and everything, and then it builds. The intention is never कि they feel motivated.
Okay.
The intention is that if I have written something which I think will help in my life, again going back to like what I said earlier, if it makes sense to me, if it is helpful for me in any way, if I like it, like I don't really think about कि कितने लोगों को पसंद आएगा, क्योंकि I consider myself to be a very normal person. तो अगर मुझे वो पसंद आ रहा है तो मेरे जैसे बहुत सारे नॉर्मल लोग हैं जिनको वो पसंद आ जाएगा, and they'll be able to see to it like I am seeing it, and so on.
Okay, fair enough. So I think I think it will be jumping around for the inspiration and the pleasuring, because
Right.
because that's not the straightforward answer what I hear said.
Yeah. It's very difficult.
So, yeah. So I think and that's all we have for today's discussion. If you have any further questions, please welcome and you can write that on chat box. and we can.
There are requests. There is a request for another song by Prayas.
Oh, okay.
That is the request, not as meant about the questions, because I think the conversation covered it all.
Okay.
That people. Okay. Yay. Thank you.
Yay!
So
Just
there's
one thing, Prayas, just one thing. If you can just check the tuning, the volume of the guitar, because last time it was a little higher than your vocals.
okay. Actually, I can move further to closer to the mic. Um. Okay, so I think this would be like sort of an ending of the whole session. So there's a very interesting brief that was shared with me by a very close friend, and the brief was to write about a couple who is married and say 5 years into a marriage, um, and the reality has already stuck, and it is a love marriage, by the way. So it's like they are in love and they were in love, but like certain realities of life have stuck. So they're not like in their most comfortable manner because they are taking care of a lot of stuff. And the brief was actually, it's a story, so I'll present it like a story. So imagine this guy is like रात हो चुकी है, बेड पे दोनों, like the wife is sitting and working on the laptop, she's finishing some stuff. The guy comes and they have a very brief conversation, and the girl says, okay, I need to finish off some stuff, so go ahead and sleep, मेरे को थोड़ा सा time लगेगा. So लड़का already थोड़ा भरा बैठा है because he is not happy with a lot of things that are happening, but it's not so big that he will have a quarrel about it and so on. So it's like very small stuff jo you keep thinking about it and they keep lingering around in your head. So the guy goes to sleep, he goes inside the bed, and that's where his dream sequence starts. So
Okay.
he's ranting in his dreams. He's not saying anything out loud, but he's sort of pouring out all the frustration and anger in his dream. So the first part, until I'll interrupt, is how that part happens. So, क्यों गुम गई धूप जैसी घूमती है बारिशों के बादलों में, क्यों गुम गई तू धूप जैसी घूमती है बारिशों के बादलों में, क्यों गुम गई ये रास्ते वही है पर है कुछ दिनों से तू इधर न आई, तराजू में शरारतें छुपाई, चांद को भी ये खबर क्यों ताकने को रात भर न आई, नाच की सी लौ सनम बिन बुझाई क्यों गुम गई तितली जैसे घूमती है इमारतों की बस्तियों में, क्यों गुम गई तू परे तेरे मेरे सफर की भूल मटर गश्तियों से, क्यों गुम गई वो बेवजह की मस्करी वो मस्तियाँ तेरी मेरी न जाने क्यों लगा हूँ मैं ये सारा जमाना आजमाने कि मैं तो हूँ वही खड़ा नहीं कदम तो हाथ ही बढ़ा दे तू, थाम मेरे हाथ कट टू द रूम अगेन, लड़की काम कर रही है, लड़का सो रहा है. फिर लड़की का काम खत्म होता है, शी क्लोजेस द लैपटॉप, साइड में रखती है, शी गोज टू द मेन डोर, बाहर का दरवाजा चेक करती है, बाउंड्री गेट चेक करती है, पर्दे लगाती है, किचन में जाती है, सारे गैस वैस चेक करती है, विंडोज क्लोज करती है, रूम में आती है, कर्टन लगाती है, लाइट बंद करती है, and then she finally sleeps and she also goes into this dream sequence, and then she responds. She's not responding to anything that the guy is saying out loud, but she's just telling her side of the story. So it starts from there, which is her part, which is
Prayas, sorry. Vocals are still a little this thing. I think everybody wants to hear your voice also. So can we check on the guitar volume once, please? Thanks.
Is it better?
Yes. Yes.
You have to play guitar.
Is it okay?
That was okay when you were closer to the mic.
Just a second. I think I need to move closer. कहो कभी हाँ देखा है क्या पत्थरों की कहो कभी हाँ देखा है क्या बारिशों की दस्तकों पे नंगे पाँव धूप को अंगना समेटते हुए कहो कभी हाँ देखा है क्या पत्थरों की बस्तियों से बरकत लिए रोज शाम तितली को लौटते हुए है हाथ तो लगे हैं वो भी करतबों में बचपने को थामे इन मुट्ठियों में समझने इन रास्तों की तासीरों में शरारतों की फुर्सतों की हसरतों में जो रात भर लगाए चुगली चांद मेरी लौ के डगमगाने की कहो उसे कि सीखे वो कला मेरी शरारतें छुपाने की लड़के की थोड़ी सी फट गई है so then he is on a back foot and he's trying to settle and like I don't mean anything and मुझे खबर तू है अभी भी ओस सी खुशकियों से राहतों में मगर है डर कि गुम न जाए शोर में दिन के मेरी आहटों के है इस सफर में दर्जनों ही मुश्किलें या साथ हम चले इन्हें चिढ़ाने को गुदगुदी कर इन्हें सताने को खरे वजन से तोल के जो दिल में है वो बोल के बताने को रूठ के मना के रूठ जाने को
Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Prayas.
Yeah, so I think this was a wonderful session we have, and really good time. And definitely all the peoples are there. They would also have the same output. But thank you everyone for being a part of this session. And Vivek, do you want to show the last video which Prayas is prepared for upcoming video?
Yeah,
song?
Yeah,
Sure.
so
I
I
think
have
Prayas,
a song
yeah.
that is Mashwara or Rah that I'm gonna be launching next month. So I prepared a small teaser with the video and some glimpse of the song. It's not a lot, but it's like a small teaser, I think, for an ending note. So please wait for the song to come out and please do give it a listen.
I think thank you so much, Prayas. Thank you so much, Virang. And I'm thanking already because we might have to end right at the end of that video. So I'm going to end the call. Yeah, I think we're just going to find more opportunities to come meet you, Prayas, and have you come over for more of ADI events. And I'm really thankful for you so graciously accepting our invitation. Thanks a lot.
I'm so
Uh,
happy.
Yes. And for everybody who are still not members with ADI, I request you to kindly log into adi.org.in and sign up. We are definitely looking at a lot of host of exciting events coming up this year, especially now that physical meeting is almost kickstarting again. And for all the Ahmedabad members, we are planning our meet and greet soon. The next meet and greet shall be in physical and the details will be up soon. So thank you so much for a great and a lovely afternoon. I'll just switch to the song now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looking forward to this very much. Thank you all. Have a great evening ahead and a great weekend. See you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.